What up, bitches? It's the misanthropic one, aka He Who Hungers, and I'm back up in this bitch for another rant. This game is fucking amazing, man. Fucking love it. Spider-Man for PS4. Just when I thought that, shit was safe with this game, there was no real social justice warrior complaints, they're around crying and bitching about every single little thing. Guess what? Can't fucking win. I got two stories here that have to do with this bullshit. One is they're complaining about the Mary Jane character, who, for those of you who don't know, Mary Jane is Spider-Man's love interest. In the comic books, well, when I was growing up, he eventually marries her. Spider-Man had a bunch of, not a bunch, but he had a few love interests in the comic book, but Mary Jane is the one who eventually wins his heart. And in the comic books, when I grew up, she was a model. But then you have, stuff that's non-canon or different alternate universes. So like in the Ultimate Spider-Man, I believe she was a journalist or whatever, which is what they're sort of following. They're following that storyline here in this game. And she's a journalist here doing her own thing, being an investigative journalist. Meanwhile, Spider-Man in this, he worked for the Bugle. Daily Bugle is the newspaper that Spider-Man is known to work for, being a photographer. But he in this canon, the video game canon, he's actually doing scientific work with Otto Octavius, Dr. Otto Octavius, who eventually, for those who are into the comic books, know that he eventually becomes Dr. Octopus. So Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is getting paid through grant money, still broke, still, living check to check. That's what I love about this game too. It stays true to all of that shit. So anyway, this, I can't even, okay. Marvel's Spider-Man is by all accounts an excellent Spider-Man game. It's polished, feels great, and delivers just about everything fans have been clamoring for in a Spidey adventure for some time. It even features Mary Jane Watson opposite Spidey as she works alongside him to tackle the game's big, bad, and unsavory opposition. Yes, you can play as her. The only problem, her potential was totally and utterly squandered in the game. There's spoilers in this, so who's this that writes this? Brittany Vincent. Ugh, fucking bitch. Okay. The most ambitious Spidey game yet finds Peter and MJ as adult acquaintances who have been friends since grade school. In-game MJ has a much different career path than you might remember from some of the comics. Depending on which thread you pick up, she's a supermodel. In Marvel Spider-Man, she's a reporter who works for the Daily Bugle, because of course she is. You go, girl, get you that money. Meanwhile, while this allows MJ to insinuate herself further into Spidey's crime-fighting activities, however, it doesn't make her very interesting. She's been working to become a journalist in the past, such as in Ultimate Spider-Man, but in this story, she's working her beat and getting into trouble while chasing stories. Personally, I would have preferred to avoid Mary Jane entirely. She doesn't lend herself to a video game character in any form. What would have made the game tremendously more fun would have been Gwen Stacy, who could somehow have been worked into the narrative as Spider-Gwen, offering a dual narrative between Peter and Gwen, or even a team up at some point. Gwen could have zipped around Manhattan on her own with thrilling adventures, just like her male alternative. Look, let me just cut to the chase. What this bitch is saying is she would rather you deal with Spider-Gwen, who personally I'm not really too fond of that character. I know some people like her or whatever. I don't like the fact that there's a billion Spider-Men running around, me personally. But for them to put in Spider-Gwen, that means they would have to explain her and this and that. This is the first Spider-Man game under Insomniac that's been under development for 2 years. Why would you, and it's called Spider-Man. Like, why would you want to, dilute the game by putting her in it? It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense the way they went. I love the way they went. And Mary Jane, see, they're trying to say, that you can't win with people like this. Mary Jane is a strong enough character on her own, and what she does in the game, without giving away too much, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, is she does more stealthy missions. She goes on real investigative journalism, going into situations where, granted, Peter, aka Spider-Man, says, no, that's too dangerous, don't do it. It creates like the extra, I guess, part of the story where, like in Spider-Man, the thing that I love about him, and I've said this before, is like he is the most, even though he has all these powers, he's sort of like the most human out of a lot of these superheroes. He gotta go, help Aunt May out. He's living paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, he's over here trying to help so-and-so out. This adds an extra burden to his storyline, as well as her own danger. So, and she's great as hell. Like, there's one, without giving away too much, there's one part where they actually do team up, where she's walking around and she actually needs to be Spider-Man's eyes, in a sense, so he could start taking out bad guys. So it's all stealth takedowns and stuff like that. So whatever this bitch is on, like, stop complaining. Nothing's wrong, okay? The second thing that I want to talk about here is Jesus Christ. This soy boy named Tom Lay, or Tom Lee, I don't know how to say his last name, is talking about here. You could read it yourself. They turned Spider-Man into a damn cop and it sucks. Okay, I'll give you a little breakdown, okay? The new Spider-Man, hold on. The new Spider-Man video game came out for PlayStation 4 last week. Well, actually, yeah, week before, but I was kind of late with this story. And I was eager to spend a chunk of my weekend playing it. Some things I immensely enjoyed during my few hours of playtime: web swinging, jumping off buildings, web swinging, whispering, whoa, that looks just like the real Empire State Building, and web swinging. One thing I did not enjoy is how the game turned Spider-Man into a freaking cop. Granted, I'm only a few hours into the game, but so far the primary objective boils down to help the cops. Not just any cops, but the NYPD specifically, because the game takes place in a true-to-life rendering of New York City. It's dumb to expect video games to be responsible reflections of real life, but it's also impossible for me, at least, to not feel some ickiness about the game forcing me into cahoots with even a fictionalized version of the NYPD, an organization that routinely oppresses some of the most vulnerable residents of the city I live in. Jesus Christ. This dude is such a soy boy, man. Such a low-T, fucking weak, limp-wristed motherfucker. I'm not grasping for as many straws as it may appear. Yes, the fuck you are. Yes, you are. Spider-Man just doesn't help the cops by catching armed robbers and putting deranged supervillains in jail. He helps them maintain a high-tech, citywide surveillance network. One of the ongoing missions in the game is to have Spider-Man repair NYPD-operated and Oscorp-constructed surveillance towers that stand atop various buildings throughout the city. When these towers are repaired, they allow the NYPD to monitor all citizens within a certain radius of the tower, and for Spider-Man to get real-time updates on happening within the city via an uplink with the tower. Oh, God. Okay. Without going too far into this, I'll let you guys read it and come into your own conclusions. This fucking guy, Tom Lee. Okay, first of all, let me get out. I can't. I'm just so sick of these weak motherfuckers. People like him, you could tell, are not Spider-Man fans. They know nothing about Spider-Man, nothing about comic books, nothing about video games. This dude sat there, in his own words, said, well, yeah, I wanted to play it. So far, it's web swinging, blah, 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 web swinging, blah, 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 and web swinging. Okay, so you're not playing, you're not getting into the depth of the game. That's number one. Number two, for you to sit there and say he's helping the police out, within the first fucking 2-3 minutes of the game, Spider-Man beats up corrupt cops. So I don't know if you skipped that part of the game, but I mean, you have to play it. You have to play through that part. I guess that's not spoiling too much, but right in the beginning of the game, for those who are fans of Spider-Man, he's going after Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, and he's being exposed for the Kingpin is a character who essentially controls a lot of the crime in New York. And he hides behind the guise of being a philanthropist or an entrepreneur or whatever. And he got exposed, so Spider-Man's going in to get him. So there's a part where the cops are coming in to go arrest him. So Spider-Man's trying to lead them. He goes, all right, I'm going to go in. And then his spider senses go off because the cops are on Kingpin's payroll and they're about to shoot him. So then you have to go beat the cops up. They're corrupt. So... Oh, God. In the comic book, Spider-Man, yes, Spider-Man helps the police. The police are naturally supposed to go after the fucking bad guys. And when they're bad, when the cops themselves are bad, Spider-Man usually goes after them too. So what's your point? And Spider-Man's a vigilante. Sometimes the cops go after him. So sometimes if he's in the middle of something or whatever, he'll incapacitate a cop, he'll web him and escape. You know what I mean? This is fucking ridiculous, this dude. And then for him to talk about maintaining a surveillance thing, yes, he's doing that so he could tap into robberies and people being raped or assaulted so he can intervene and stop, possibly before the cops get there, because you can't fucking wait for a cop. This is what happens in real fucking life. Now, granted, look, I'm not saying that there are no situations where cops don't abuse their power or whatever the case. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but for this guy to make that fucking stretch, you could tell that dudes like this just got nothing better to do. And he says he lives in New York and all these cops are doing is running around oppressing people. You know what this guy reminds me of? This weak fucking milquetoast, soft marshmallow man of a dude. This is the type of dude that will sit and talk shit, but at the same time, when something happens to him, he's gonna call the cops. How much you want to bet? But I just want to get this out of here. Buy this game. It's fucking amazing. Fuck what these people are saying. Enjoy the experience. Ignore these people. They just again, these are people who aren't fans of Spider-Man, and it just annoys the shit out of me because I'm a true fan, and you have people like this, like I keep saying, they suck the fun out of everything. So that's it. Everybody else, y'all know the deal. Leave your love, leave your hate. Most of all, subscribe, share my shit, and that's it. Peace, bitches.